What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today for another video. And today I wanted to look at something different. I wanted to do this video a little while ago after Florida defeated Carolina in Game 1 that went 4 overtimes in the Eastern Conference Final. I want to look at some of the longest games in NHL history. Why? Because I want to see how recent some of them are compared to others. So I got the 15 longest games on the board. And what's funny that the number 15 comes out so perfect is that the 15 games on the board are all the games in history that have gone to at least 4 overtimes, meaning they have gone past 3 overtimes, they have been in the 4th overtime or higher, and there have been 15 of those games. Meanwhile, 43 games added on to that have gone into triple overtime. So if you want a full calculation of how many games have gone to at least triple overtime, take these 15 and add them onto there. You get 58. 58 games have gone, in the NHL history, playoff games have gone to at least 3 overtimes. And that's a pretty, honestly, small amount compared to what I originally expected. But we're going to look at them on the board. So we're going to go from top to bottom. I got all 15 on the board. We're just going to go through all of them. You're also going to notice the variety of magnets used. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 magnets I didn't use. Actually 13 at Seattle in there. So 13 out of the 32 teams did not have one of these games. So interesting. We also see which teams are in them the most. So let's get into the first one, which was on March 24th, 1936. Detroit defeated the Montreal Maroons, the former team there, 1-0 in the 6th overtime in the longest game in NHL history. Mud Brunito with the winner there. If your name is Mud, that must have been a dirty goal. Yeah, I'm right. If you shut up the video off by now, I fully understand by that bad pun. But it went 216 minutes and 30 seconds. So that is equivalent to, let me think. So there's 2 hours is 120 minutes, 3 hours is 180 minutes, and 4 hours is 240 minutes, so just a little short of there. So let's say about, let's think, each period is 20 minutes. The first period is 60. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a long time. Like 216 minutes and 30 seconds. That is a long time to be playing hockey and go 6 overtimes. There's only been one other game that has gone 6 overtimes, and it was the previous holder for the longest game in history. On April 3rd, 1933, Toronto defeated the Boston Bruins 1-0, the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, in the 6th overtime. So those are the 2 games in history that have gone 6 overtimes. There hasn't been one since 1936. Ken Doherty gets the winner in that one. The game went 204 minutes and 46 seconds. So that is a 12-minute differential between the first and the last one. Interesting to see how much we're going to drop off here between each game. Moving on to the 5 overtime games. This one, May 4th, 2000, is a famous game. May 4th, 2000, the Philadelphia Flyers defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins 2-1 in the 5th overtime. Keith Primo, of course, with the winner. I'd be surprised if you were a hockey fan and didn't know about this goal. Even though it was before I was born, I know a ton about it. That was a turning point in the playoff series right there. Pittsburgh was up 2-0, and they were going back home to Pittsburgh after winning both games in Philly. And Philly won Game 3 in triple overtime off Andy Delmore, I believe. And then Keith Primo in the 5th overtime in this game settles it, and Philadelphia ends up winning that series in 6. They win the games 3 through 6, and they knock Pittsburgh out. So I'm not exactly sure which rounds these two were in, because the 1930s were a different format of NHL than we have today, and I was already doing a ton of research for this, and the research sources I was using did not have like rounds of playoff series. So basically, I'm just going off my own knowledge of what's going on here. Now moving on to the 4th largest. This is the first one I'm around for. August 11th, 2020, the Tampa Bay Lightning defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-2 in the 5th overtime. Of course, Braden Point gets the winner in that one. Columbus's Corpusalo at that time, he made the record, I think, for saves in a game. I think it was like 85 or something like that. It was pretty insane. Of course, it was kind of a fluke goal that went off Gavrikov, and then it came right back to Point. Gavrikov was hurt, and kind of people were focused on that. Point just whips it at the net, and it goes in. And that game went before that, Philadelphia's game went 192 minutes and 1 second. So a bit of a drop-off. So that's a 12-minute drop-off from 204. And then 2 minutes below 192 is 190 minutes and 27 seconds. So quite a long period of time there for a game that I watched in 3 different houses. I was at my house watching the start of that game, I was in my aunt's house watching the middle of that game, and I was back at my house to watch the end of the game. That game went on the entire day. And I remember Boston and Carolina was supposed to play later that day. They ended up postponing that to the next morning because this game went so long and the ice was so bad after that. Because it was the bubble playoffs and they were playing in all the Eastern teams were in Toronto and that sort of thing. Now, number 5 on the list on April 24th, 2003, it's Peter Sikora getting the winner in the Anaheim Mighty Ducks at the time, defeating the Dallas Stars 4-3 in the 5th overtime. Of course, the big hero in this playoffs was Jean-Sebastien Giguère, who was on the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, who went all the way to the final. And even though they lost in 7 games, Giguère on the losing team won the Conn Smythe. Anaheim was a team of destiny this year that if they were able to win one game in New Jersey in the final, they win the Stanley Cup. That game went 180 minutes and 28 seconds, so just at the start of the period, the 5th overtime period, Sikora buries that one. And that's a 10-minute drop-off almost exactly from the number 4 game. Now, May 18th, 2023 is the most recent one on this list, of course, because it just happened. Florida defeats the Carolina Hurricanes 3-2 in the 4th overtime. We were 12.7 seconds away from a 5th overtime. Matthew Tkachuk with the winner there, and that game went 179 minutes and 47 seconds. Game was bonkers. It wasn't boring by any means. Both Anderson and Bobrovsky were standing on their heads, fighting exhaustion. And Tkachuk gets a clean shot off, very similar to the Keith Primo shot that we have at number 3. But yeah, that was the most recent one on this list, and only that would be the last one I was alive. Last one that I watched, not the last one I was alive for. Now, on April 24th, 1996, Pittsburgh and Washington faced off in the playoffs as usual. Peter Nedved puts the Capitals, I think that might have been the deciding game of the series that might have eliminated the Capitals, and Olaf Kolzig, I believe, was in net for Washington that year. Pittsburgh wins 3-2 in the 4th overtime. Game goes 179 minutes and 15 seconds. So this one's just a 32-second differential between 6 and 7. So very close differential there. So when you hear the announcer saying that this is the 10th longest game, 9th longest game, 8th longest game, they have these games up to see which how they're passing them over and over. That's when like Florida jumped into 6th longest in history. I remember when Tampa Columbus went into 4th in history, and yeah. So next up on the list, number 8, we have April 11th, 2007, and I would have been 2 or 3 years old, I believe, so a little young still. I didn't start watching hockey for another 2 seasons, but Vancouver defeats Dallas in Game 1 of the first round. Goes 4 overtimes, and Henrik Sedin with the winner. That was Vancouver before they had the blue and green uniforms. They had more of a very dark navy and a maroon color to their uniforms. I remember that, watching that replay of the like longest overtime goals compilations you see on YouTube. That game went 178 minutes and 6 seconds. What's just even more incredible is how these players can even like function going that long, being on skates for that long consecutively, and you're fighting fatigue. And this is also, games are at night, so you're fighting just like actual like sleep and tiredness. Like it's not like you're playing in the middle of the day like the Tampa Columbus game. That game started in the middle of the day and went into the early evening. These games, the rest of them were at night. Like these went deep into the night. Now moving on, so that's about a little over a minute and 9 second drop off from 7 to 8. And then we jump back in history a bit, and once again, March 23rd, 1943, Toronto defeats Detroit 3-2 in the quadruple overtime once again. Jack McLean with the winner for Toronto there, and that game went 170 minutes and 18 seconds, 8-minute drop off from the previous game. So, what teams have we seen the most so far? We've seen Pittsburgh twice, once on the losing, once on the winning. We've seen Dallas twice on the losing. We've seen Detroit on each side of it. We've seen Toronto win both of their longest games. And I know it's not the last time we see Dallas or Detroit either. Yeah, as I look farther down the list. Now, moving on to May 4th, 2008. This is the last one on the list that I was alive for. Dallas and San Jose. To this day, San Jose was down 3-0 in this series, and this was Game 6. They've won Game 4 and Game 5 in overtime. 4, I'm not sure. 4 or 5, I won in overtime. Game 6 went to quadruple overtime, and Nabokov made one of the greatest saves in NHL history. But Brendan Morrow in the 4th overtime buries it on a deflection from, I believe, Robidas was the one who gave the pass. It was a slap pass from Robidas, and gets it by Nabokov as the Dallas would go on to the conference final and get smacked by Detroit. They win that one 2-1. That game went 169 minutes and 3 seconds. So another minute drop off there. A lot of these are very close now because we're getting into the longest. The farther up you go, or the farther down you go, the closer and closer times you're going to get. But I still say that's the best team San Jose ever had. That was a fantastic team. It had everything. Star power, depth, defense, offense, goaltending. You name it, they had it. And Jeremy Roenick. March 28th, 1930, as we jump back about 78 years, I think. Montreal defeats the New York Rangers 2-1 in 4 overtimes. Gus Rivers with the win there for Montreal. Not a French name at all. I'm not really sure why he's playing there at that time. But the game goes 168 minutes and 52 seconds. Just 11 seconds shorter than the game in 2008 here. Moving on. Number 12, on April 18th, 1987, nicknamed the Easter Epic. The New York Islanders defeat the Washington Capitals in Game 7 in a quadruple overtime, the longest Game 7 in history, I believe, at the time. It might still be. I don't think any of these were Game 7s. But Pat LaFontaine gets the winner as the Islanders, even though they're done with their dynasty. They move on and defeat the Capitals, who, at this point, are just starting to build up that reputation of struggling in the playoffs. But there is a reason it was called the Easter Epic. Like, you saw how tired those guys were, and LaFontaine, similar to the Braden Point goal, just turns around, just slap shots it, and Washington's goalie, I believe it was Bob Mason, just sinks to his knees, just exhausted. Everyone was exhausted. Now, April 27th, 1994, Buffalo and New Jersey. This game I remember seeing highlights of. Hasek versus Brodeur. Hasek was the Vezina winner. Brodeur was the Calder winner. Buffalo wins this game 1-0, and Dave Hannon gets the winner. And while Buffalo won the game, they did not win the series. New Jersey goes into the Eastern Conference Final that year, where they would lose to the Rangers, and everyone knows that story. So, yeah, Dave Hannon gets the winner in 1994. That game goes 165 minutes and 43 seconds. And at the LaFontaine game, the 1987 Easter Epic here, 168 minutes and 47 seconds, just 5 seconds shorter than the 1930. Then this one drops off about almost 3 minutes and 4 seconds exactly from the 1987 game. So 2 more on the board here, and not many people were alive during these, I'm pretty sure. At least people watching this video. March 27th, 1951. Montreal defeats Detroit 3-2 in the 4th overtime. Maurice the Rocket Richard with the winner in that one. So you have a Hall of Famer there. How many Hall of Famers are on this list? Let's see. Primo, damn good player, not a Hall of Famer. Don't know who Mud Brunito is, not going to lie. Ken Doherty, don't know. Braden Point has potential. I don't think he'll get there, but he might. Peter Sikora, again, good player, not a Hall of Famer. Matthew Tkachuk, building up a resume to become a Hall of Famer. Peter Nedved, no. Henrik Sedin is a Hall of Famer. Jack McLean, I've never heard of before this, obviously. Brendan Morrow, good player, not a Hall of Famer. Gus Rivers, never heard of. LaFontaine is a Hall of Famer. Hannon, decent player. Richard, good player. But that game goes 161 minutes and 9 seconds. 4.5 minute drop off from number 13. And to finish it off at number 15, March 27th, 1938, Lauren Lair, I don't know who says it, of the New York Americans, yes, the New York Americans, defeat the New York Rangers in quadruple overtime 3-2, and that's back in 1938. The game goes 160 minutes and 40 seconds, so about a 20-30 second drop off from the 14th longest game in history. So there you go. As you can see, variety of teams, a variety of scores. Actually, not really variety of scores. The largest one is Vancouver-Dallas here. The shortest one, we have 3 1-0s with 1, 2, and 13. Most common score looks to be 3-2, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those, so around half of the teams. And yeah, just looking at these games, it's cool to look back on history and who were the ultimate heroes in an overtime game. Of course, Ottawa, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Colorado, St. Louis, Arizona, Chicago, Nashville, Vegas, Calgary, LA, Edmonton, or Seattle have never been in a quadruple overtime game, this means. And, however, I do know that longest game in Chicago history, if you're a Chicago fan watching, me being the Blackhawks fan, I remember because I was alive. It was Game 2 of the Western Conference Final in 2015. Same game where Andrew Shaw had the header. That game ended up going to within 4 minutes of 4 overtimes before Marcus Kruger got the winner there. Fun fact there. But yeah, besides that, we have 43 games that went to triple overtime. I wasn't going to write any triple overtime games when there's that long of a list. But yeah, just wanted to look at some of the longest games in history. And yeah, that's going to be all I have for you guys today. Tonight is Game 6 of Vegas-Dallas in the Western Conference Final. My voice is starting to go away for whatever reason. But I'm going to finish this up then quickly. We'll see who wins the series tonight. If Vegas does, we'll have a series review tomorrow. If Dallas does, it'll be postponed, and they'll become the 9th or 10th team to ever come back from 3-0 down. However, only 4 have completed the comeback in one Game 7, so we'll see. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.